Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of our photography review show. It's Tuesday, 12th of November 2024 and once again it's time to look at your photos. Now very quickly, if you've never been here before, my name is Jakub. I'm a founder and creator here at Clever Photographer and this show is my way of staying in touch with our incredible photography community here at Clever Photographer. Quick two notes. One, how to join us with your own photos, how you send them for me to review them. Well, all you need to do is join our membership, which is called Clever Photographer Plus. And to find out more about it, head to our website where you're going to go to cleverphotographer.com/membership and find out more about it there. On the second note, well, what we're going to do, usually I look at the selection of images from our photographers and I look at three parts of each of the photo. I look at the technical part, this is where I look at things like camera settings and the more interesting details like noise, sharpness, brightness, exposure, and so on. And so the building part of the image. After that, I look at the artistic part. This is the visual part of the photo. This is where I look at things like composition, framing, storytelling, main subject, and everything that really makes the image stand out. And on the top of it, if I think that we have extra time, and also, more importantly, if I think that it's beneficial for you, I look at the photo editing and give you some tips and tricks on how you could change things or improve them in the future. For the editing part, I use one of my favorite photography application called Luminar Neo. However, if you don't have it, don't worry about it at all. Simply use the application you have because most of the editing I'm gonna be doing can be made in, pretty much any current photo editing application. Anyway, this is all out of the way. We know how you can join us in the future. You know what we're gonna do. So let's go ahead and start with the reviews right now. Okay, so moving into Luminar Neo, where we're gonna spend most of our time in the catalog module. Here we can see the images as well as the camera details. Now we're gonna start with landscape photographers and the first set of photos are from Elizabeth. Elizabeth sent us two images and each one of them in RAW and also JPEG format. So we have this view already edited here, and again here the raw file, and this the edited version. So let's start with the more traditional landscape. Looking at it, it doesn't really give us the details of the camera, but I think when we look at the JPEG, it does. So let's use that. Looking at it, captured with Canon RP with the 28 to 300 millimeters. Now on the lens for this image, 28 millimeters, ISO 100, f13 and 1/400 of a second. So all good here, nice and low ISO, higher f-stop, but all good there. Again, the foreground is quite close to the lens and then there is lots to capture. So the f13 is probably good choice here. And the 1/400 of a second, giving you nice level of exposure across. Once we review the details of or the camera settings, we can go back to the raw file and here maybe just inspect it a little bit further. So looking at it, for some reason I can't really zoom in on it, so that's fine. We will manage anyway. Obviously, if there are some darker parts around, the sharpness from this kind of light preview is a little bit difficult to judge, but the noise, sound or look quite good, so everything good there. So after this, it's better to probably move into the JPEG and see what you've done there. And actually, to be honest, coming from here and ending up here is very good job. I really like the result. The nice flow, looking at the water, the nice level of details, lovely details in the sky. Actually opening up the darker areas, it looks all good to me there. So well done. Good sharpness, good balance in overall and very balanced composition. So actually, Elizabeth, this is very, very nice, very well captured. The colors are saturated, but still very natural. So all in all, this is a great capture. And to be honest, I don't have much to add here. I think it works very well. The foreground of the plant here works very well, giving us a lovely opener for the rest of the scene. So well done. Excellent job. Now, looking at the second image, again, I can't really see the camera details on a raw photo for some reason this week, but looking at the JPEG, so captured with ISO 1600, then 30 millimeters on the lens, f9 and 1/160th of a second. Coming back to the camera details, Canon RP and 15 to 30 millimeters. Now, this capture is kind of traditional, not traditional view, but traditional scene with these kind of characteristics from the Antelope Canyon. This specifically is the mountain sheep. So looking at it, it looks beautiful. I've seen many pictures from this area. It always is very pretty. I would love to go there one day, actually. It's beautiful textures, beautiful light. This is well handled and well put together. Now, the original image looked like this. The sharpness is good. The light is good. The texture is good. It's well edited. I love the kind of natural vignette opening up for the scene behind. I think that works super well. Yeah, and I think all in all, Elizabeth is very well handled. Really enjoy it. Looking at it, maybe you then a little bit of HDR here, which create just a beautiful scene and a beautiful photo. So well done. Again, lovely natural colors, lovely composition with the center opening in that portrait mode. Just well done. So well done for two beautiful photos. I think you've done on both of them very well. And there is not much I would tell you to change or adjust. I think they look both beautiful. Next on our list of landscape photographers is Tim. Tim sent us one photo right here with this really moody capture. So let's go ahead and look at it. Tim, looking at it, looking at the camera details, let's have a look. It's a Pentax camera, I think K3 with the 50 to 500 millimeters Sigma lens. Now, looking at the camera details here, ISO 1100, 113 on the lens, f8 and 1/350th of a second. Wow, a little bit higher ISO for landscape capture, but still, let's have a look at it. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And to be honest, you can see a little bit of the noise, but it's not bad at all, actually. For that amount, for 1100, I think it's well put together. You can see it a little bit more in the fog and clouds there, but in overall, I think it's actually quite well handled. Since we're already here, looking at the sharpness, it's looking very decent. You know, the details are there, the structure is there, the details, you know, the fog, or again, the clouds look actually quite natural. So all in all, nicely put together. f8, yeah, giving you good depth of field here, 1/350th of a second, making the clouds look a little bit more natural. Often I see people capturing scene like this with long exposure, and then the fog, or again, the mist or clouds or whatever it is, becomes like this kind of bulk of white, and it just doesn't look very natural. So this is well handled, well put together. So yeah, other than a little bit higher ISO, but again, I'm not sure about the level of light and what was the circumstances there. I think it looks quite good. So no technically problem there. When it comes to composition, I think it's also nicely done. Obviously, there are some nice things that work together. The water as a foreground, then the kind of middle ground with the darker area, and then the background with the clouds. I think that's nicely done. The overall way you frame the image with the 2/3 works really well. The contrast of the colors works very well here as well. We have the white, dark, and then the gray. I think that's a lovely combination as well. So all in all, it's a lovely moody scene. Maybe one thing that I would love to have is something that would give us a little sense of scale, maybe, because we don't really know what size of the scene we're looking at. But in general, I think it works very well. So technically, it's well handled. I think artistically very well as well. I really like that kind of mood of that drama, the very earthy tones, the pastel tones make very nice scene. And in overall, I think it's very pretty. So well done, team. Great capture and well put together. If you would have some wishes, you would wish that there would be a little bit of a reflection in the water. That would be lovely. But yeah, that's about it. It's a lovely capture, which definitely is ready to be shared. And yeah, you've done amazing job. So thank you very much for sharing it with us. And if you do have more pictures, make sure you send them to us in the future. Talking about landscape photography, we have one more photographer here, and that's Weasley. Similar to Elizabeth, he also sent us the raw file and then the edited version, and both images with that kind of lovely autumn feel. So Weasley, let's have a look at it. Starting with this image, this is the original photo, and then we have the edited file here. So starting with the original photo, let's have a look at it. Captured with Nikon Z8 with 24 to 70 millimeters. On the lens, 29.5 millimeters. From the camera settings, ISO 125, f8, and 100 over second. So looking at the scene, lovely capture here, nice and low ISO, f8, yeah, giving us the depth and the sharpness all the way through, 100 over second. What is a little bit bright day, obviously, you can see that some of the shadows and some of the highlights are a little bit stronger, but I think the choice there is quite good. Looking at the raw file itself, you can see that it's that it has a good level of sharpness, no noise. So yeah, all of that is really good. Just as I say, some of the highlights and some of the shadows are just a little bit stronger. I wish that you would try to photograph it maybe a different time of the day to get a little more diffuse light. But again, sometimes we don't have that choice. So I think it works quite well. Moving on the artistic part. So let's have a look at the actual edited photo, where first I command you on managing the light. I think this looks already much better. The light is much more not much better handled, giving us quite nice highlights here. And actually, to be honest, the highlight here at the back giving us quite nice flow, which kind of makes you want to walk through the path and just have a fun with it. So what did you do here? So a little bit of cropping, that works really well. Highlighting some of the colors, I think that works really well too. So all good done there. Nice warm atmosphere, well handled and well put together. What I like on it is that it's quite saturated, but actually it looks still very natural. And when it comes to the artistic part and talking about composition, as I say, the flow of the path looks really nice. The river, these kind of elements always help to create a really nice sense of leading lines and sense of flow through the images. The colors, the color contrast between the different elements and the handled light, all of that brought together actually works very well. And there is not much I would change here. The only thing, keep an eye on when you're applying vignette or something, it sometimes gives you this kind of strong blue light, and it can be a little bit distracting as it doesn't look very natural. So keep an eye on vignetting and keep an eye on darkening some parts as this little bit stand out from the rest of the photo. Now, moving on the second image. So again, I think that this is the raw file and this is the edited result. So with the raw file, again, a Nikon Z8, 24 to 70 millimeters with the 35 millimeters on the lens and ISO 100, f5 and 1/640th of a second on the shutter speed. So a nice and low ISO, f-stop, well managed there, 1/640th of a second, giving you kind of freeze moment in that reality. You can see that the light is a little bit more different than earlier. First, maybe the light source is on the other side, but giving you kind of scale of maybe darker areas or brighter areas. But yeah, I think it all works very well here. Looking at it and moving into the edited file, I wanted to see what you've done with it here. Again, a little bit of extra saturation on the colors. Yeah, applying basic editing, maybe a little vignette, not much more there. It's very nice and natural edit. I think that you could perhaps maybe focus more on the reflection and give it a little bit more there. So first already what I would do, I would probably crop it a little bit tighter, focusing on the reflection. So what we could do, for example, is actually bring this down, maybe somewhere around here. We could rotate it a little bit. We could get radius of the side here. There's not much happening there, and really add our focus on this area. So that's first thing. We get radius on the areas which are not that interesting and just focus on that. After that, just because we don't have that much time, I will use the Enhance AI to open up everything so we can get all the details in. And by doing that, we can now focus on other things like the reflection, water, and so on. So for example, for the water, we could use the water enhancer, increase the amount, which will basically scan the image, look for the water, and then apply the edit there. Now, when you look at it before and after, it adds a little bit of blue, but what we more want to do, maybe we want to brighten it up a little bit and add a little bit of contrast. I think that helps. If you think that it's too blue, you can always lower it down, but that's about it. Additionally, I would use the mystical tool because I think the autumn colors can work very well with glow. And just to make some of the colors stand out, we can go into the simple HSL panel in color section. And here in saturation, we're going to pick the traditional colors like orange, make them a little bit stronger. Maybe also some of the yellows. Yeah, nothing crazy. Maybe a little bit the reds. And do we want to do the same for green? We don't want to overdo it. Maybe we leave the green alone, but something like this. We will actually lower the saturation of the blue to remove the distraction from there and do this. Additionally, little vignette focusing on this part of the photo. And I think we're looking good. Let's have a look at it. Once everything loads, let's have a look at the before and after. And it's another way of how you could edit your photo. So Weasley, your edit here, well handled. My edit just maybe a little bit different, cropped differently, and push the colors a little bit further. But all in all, both beautiful images, and thank you so much for sharing them with us. Moving on, it's time to look at nature captures from Tony. If you've been watching our show for some time, you know that Tony is one of our resident photographers, which always share with us amazing nature photos. But in fact, Tony, we have missed you for the past few weeks, so I hope all is well with you, and I'm really happy to see your photos again. In fact, there are some beautiful captures, especially the first two in the list. I mean, they are incredible. This is beautiful flower itself. It almost looks like a watercolor painting, or it's just so beautiful. And this one with the black background is also super well captured. So definitely one more time, well done. Anyway, Tony, let's have a look at your photos. We have 2, 4, 6 captures here with the beautiful flowers, as I already showed you. We have some more here, this yellow one as well as the purple one. Then we have some, yeah, it looks like a mistletoe a little bit with some red berries there and a little bit of different textures and captures. Okay, Tony, we're not going to go through all 6 of them, but at least let's have a look at the first one here, which I think is beautiful. And let's talk about what works on it and why I think that, for example, these 2 captures are really well taken. So looking at this one, this is Canon 7D with the 18 to 135 millimeters, 135 millimeters on the lens, ISO on 320, f6.3 and 1/250th of a second. So yeah, generally good ISO for this type of photography, lower light scene, diffuse scene. So that's one thing. f6.3 giving you the sharpness in the center, and then very smooth and gradient softness, which you can see at the depth here towards the end as you go through the flower. So that's also well handled. And 1/250th of a second giving you very nice sharpness, again in that diffused light. So all is good there. Now, what I really like on it is the sharpness. I quite like the depth, which is again demonstrated with that slow softness at the bottom, but it's just very natural. It's not like this massive difference between super blurred background and super sharp foreground. I think this is just very well handled. That's one thing that works really well. The diffuse light, another powerful thing that really works well in this kind of photography. You can see how this works, and then you can see how, for example, here the light is a little bit stronger. And to be honest, it can be a little bit distracting, where on this one, you really focus on the main subject with that light still centered, but still giving us much more pleasant view. So that works really well. Another thing that works really well is the separation of the background and the main subject. Obviously, this is an extreme case where we have the really dark background, but it can be as simple as here, where the separation is simply created by depth, yes, but also by the contrast of the colors. You can, when you look at this image, the main subject immediately stand out. It doesn't need any softer background or any darkening. It just helps to stand out. And similarly here, again, the contrast of the colors help you to focus on the main subject, and so does here, and so on. So that works also really well. Another thing that is kind of signature thing for Tony is that square crop, which for this type of subject also works really well. It really gives you that centered point of view looking at the main subject of the flower, and I think it just works really well. This is also very well done, and so on. So there is no distraction of extra space. It's clear straight from the beginning what we're focusing on, and I think it just really works very well. Anyway, Tony, so this is a beautiful capture, technically well handled. I really like the dark background. I think it's well put together. You can see a little bit of the background, which is quite nice touch, and I think it works well. On this one, yeah, again, as I say, it almost looks like painting. Personal wish, I wish that this leaf wouldn't be there. Now, since we're already here, let's try if the Gen Erase would be able to erase it. I have no idea if this would work. I haven't tried before, but you know what? We have a little bit of time, so let's try something else. So just a quick selection here. Obviously, I'm using one of the generative AI tools. If any of you watching don't like it, close your eyes for the next 2 minutes, and then you can reopen them once I'm finished. And let's see if it's gonna work. So ideally, it would remove the leaf and replace it with something that it thinks is there. Basically, how this technology works, it takes that area you selected, it makes it a little bit smaller, it sends it to this cloud, this nasty cloud, where it looks through millions and millions of photos, and basically it tries to figure out what should be there. So then it brings it back and try to reapply. Now we have tried here. The result is not great because it gives us, I mean, it works. And we can again click on erase, but what it did, it basically created an empty space there, which is not great. So let's try it one more time. Let's try our luck. And if it's not going to work, we're just going to move on with the image. But I thought it would be something a little bit different. This is maybe a little bit better. You would maybe need to do some darkening there. But I think by removing the leaf, if we have a look, we kind of have removed that distraction of that leaf there. But still, we're just going to click on cancel and continue. Anyway, as I say on this one, Tony, I think the light is a little bit too dark for me there, a little bit too bright. I think it's a little bit distracting. There's lots of brightness there. And as I mentioned in a previous episodes, sometimes when you look at image for some time and your eyes start to kind of hurt, they start to be sensitive. That's a good sign that it's either oversaturated or overexposed. Of course, I couldn't remember. And this is one of these images. I would bring the overall brightening down anyway, just to see what it can take, maybe lower the highlights to get something like this and then work out from there. So from here to here and then see what I could do, maybe play around with the saturation and so on. Lovely. So here, lovely capture as well. I find these elements here to be a little bit distracting, maybe because they are not that pretty really. You have this beautiful scene of the purple and they are just kind of half dead. So it's just a personal choice. I think maybe a little tighter cropped and maybe darkening the area would help, but I love freezing of these little droplets. I think that works super well. This image, really to be honest, just don't know what I'm looking at. There are some highlights which are a little bit distracting. Yeah, there's just lots happening there. The red obviously standing out, you know what you're looking at there, but it's not the most interesting scene I ever seen from you before. On this one, the texture is really interesting, but to be honest, if you're going for the texture and for the color, maybe go even bolder, just really crop on the leaves, don't leave anything out there. So let's say if we actually go for the free, let's say that we completely avoid the stones and just go for the leaf themselves, something like this, and then hit enter. And then it's really something almost abstract. You're not sure what you're looking at, but I think it can create a really, really nice scene. Then you could work with your brush, create some nice contrasts between doing some dodge and burn and end up with something like this. So, Tony, beautiful captures. Out of all the images, this one is my favorite, second by this one. And I think the purple could be really nice too. Just a little bit of darkening there, maybe tighter crop, and you end up with the beautiful result. Tony, thank you very much. It's great to see you back again. Take care, and I hope to see more of your images next week. And almost traditionally, we ending up the show this week with images from Zdeněk. Zdeněk is another one of our regular photographers here at the Photography Review Show. He lives in South Africa, and he sent us some really beautiful images from this part of the world. Zdeněk, what do we have? So we have some impalas here, and then a giraffe head here. Zdeněk, let's have a look at it. Starting with these ladies here, I guess. Looking at it, first impression. There are some maybe noise reduction elements here. You can kind of see it when I zoom in. Just a little bit distracting. You can see the difference between the edited part and not edited, or there was definitely some adjustments there. So that is just one thing that is standing out. Obviously, the animals are beautiful, lovely frozen, drinking from the thing. That works really well. In overall, also, the overall white balance seems to be just a little bit yellow for me. I think the whole image is a little bit yellow. And yet, still, you have some blue haze in these darker areas. Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about it. This one was captured with Canon 5D Mark IV with 100 to 400 millimeters. You were on 300 millimeters when capturing this one. And with the camera settings, so ISO 800, no problem for one live there, 1250th of a second. So that's why we're getting nice sharp result with, what is it, f5.6. So yeah, a little bit of softness at the back. Now, Zdeněk, first the image is kind of a little bit smaller on the resolution, so 2400. So this is why when I keep zooming in or zooming out, it kind of gives us this, it kind of goes away from me a little bit, but that's not necessarily the problem. Sharpness is good. It's all good there. Noise, it's kind of hard to say from this image a little bit. I think there are more problems with the color, but yeah, that's about it. Now for the artistic part, for the composition, it's lovely. I wish it would be a little bit wider, maybe have a little bit more space on the side here, but I'm pretty sure that you already knew that before I'm gonna even tell you. What I like is this animal looking towards you. That creates quite nice scene. I also like the fact that not all of them just drinking. You have one kind of standing out here and all of that. That works really well, but yeah, I wish there was a little bit more space around. The depth itself works quite well. You have the main subject with a kind of blurry background that works really good. Yeah, I think that's all of that. But in the post-processing, there are some things that are a little bit distracting. First one, again, this texture. You have the kind of texture here and then the texture on the side. I think that's not great. There's this element here, again, with quite sharp edges, so I'm not sure what was happening there. And again, I was mentioning, it seems really yellow with these blue highlights there. So not really sure how on JPEG we could add this. We just kind of quickly open the develop tool and play around with the color. If I make it more blue, if I remove the warmth, that doesn't work. The other way around doesn't work neither. With the tint, maybe just a touch of extra magenta, yeah, to remove the green. And then it would have to be the color tool. And yeah, you would really have to play around with maybe starting with the hue, with the yellow. Can we make it more orange? Maybe a touch of orange. Maybe remove it a little bit of that yellow, and definitely also the blue. I want to remove the blue from that highlights. I find it a bit distracting. And then with the luminance, do we want to make the yellow just a little bit darker? Maybe orange as well, or brighter? That's a question. Maybe brighter to get it stand out a little bit more. With the red, I'm not sure, maybe something like this. After that, definitely a little bit of vignette, focusing more on the animals themselves, maybe extra inner light there just to remove the focus from there, make it a little bit smaller, something like this. And maybe just a little closing, so darkening the foreground, something like this, focusing more on the animals. So something like, now, this is where we started. This is where we are. It's kind of a little edit. You know, I always kind of go and see when I can't manage the colors to see if maybe the black and white would work. And actually, that could also work really well. Would be one thing to do. Then I would make the top also darker and see what that would give me. Maybe something like this. Maybe this is a little bit strong. Maybe somewhere here. And yeah, play around from there. A little bit of extra contrast, I think. Maybe. Let's have a look. Yeah, something like this. From here to here, I think that could work. So, Zdeněk, this is it for this image. Now, talking about the giraffe. That's a lovely capture, lovely frozen moment with Canon 5D Mark IV, 100 to 400 millimeters. ISO 640, 135 millimeters, f5, 1000 of a second. Lovely capture, lovely texture, lovely details, lovely frozen moment. Not much problems there. What I'm not sure is that kind of blue turquoise back. I think that's a little bit distracting, the color there. And also this bright glow around is just, yeah, that's just something happening there, which I can't really say what it is. Yeah, maybe it's just the way the light hit the animal. I'm not sure. Either way, It's a lovely image. Again, I wonder if just black and white wouldn't really help to remove some of the distraction. And it does, you see how it immediately remove the color at the back, and suddenly we have so much more attention on the center. Little extra vignette with the inner light focusing on the animal again. Definitely the way to go. Make it a little bit smaller, maybe extra structure. Again, focusing on the animal more than anything else. So we could actually just brush over like this. And I think that looks already much better. Little enhance AI to see if that will help us a little bit. And I think it does. So Zdeněk, from here to here, something a little bit different. And I know I've done 2 black and white edits today, but it's just to give you some food for thoughts and see what could be done differently. I think, to be honest, both of the images struggle a little bit with the color balance and colors. And I really think that, especially for captures during the day, the black and white really goes far and it can create beautiful images. Zdeněk, as always, thank you for sending your images over, and I can't wait to see more of them next week. And the same goes to all of you folks. Please go ahead and send us your images. Or to do that, all you need to do is to head to our website, cleverphotographer.com/membership. Or if you already member, just look out for the member zone, or you can also look out for the link on our Facebook group. For today, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for staying until the end. You already know my name was Jakub Bors, and I can't wait to see you again next week on Tuesday here at Clever Photographer YouTube channel or on our